This morning on our Greetings from the Garden State segment, Mike Ham is introducing us to a band from the Essex County area. Mike, who do you have for us?
We have Fair Panic, which is a really cool band, and I had seen some stuff of theirs, just kind of scrolling through Jersey bands that we were kind of highlighting and stuff. And Fair Panic came across my desk, we'll say, with their song "Soul," the excessive booty shaking edition, which just like stood out to me. And I played it and I loved it, and then I've been playing them for a bit. But they really haven't released any new original music over the since 2018, I believe. But they have a three-song EP dropping or will have dropped by the time this airs on Friday. So definitely some still cool stuff coming for Fair Panic.
They are fronted by Tory Anne Daines, who is just insanely talented. I can't get over her
Yeah,
talent level, Mike.
yeah. I mean, violin, singer, all that kind of stuff. And it's funny, like she makes her living playing in like country cover bands, which I found very fascinating because the types of music that they play is not country. But just, she talks about like putting reps in and, playing music and like learning different types of genres of stuff and how people, make it entertaining and, play all over the state, all over the country. And but yeah, super talented, super interesting, and like has a real vision for what she wants the future of the band to be.
In her early musical days, she played drums in a band, although she admits she didn't play them very well, but she still did it. Plays
Yeah,
guitar, keyboards, theremin. If you're a fan of the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album, you know exactly what a theremin sounds like. Cello, I think, as well as violin, and classically trained. That's easy for me to say,
yeah.
which always amazes me when someone comes from that style of music, classical training, and branches out into stuff like country, as you mentioned, or rock and roll. It
Sure.
just brings a whole different dimension to it.
Yeah, it's like remember we were talking about Maddie Carlock. I feel like it's a very similar. Now Maddie's wasn't classically trained, but I do think that like combining all those different elements helps make you more of a well-rounded musician or artist or whatever the case may be. Because I do think it adds different layers to the art itself. You're able to kind of mix different things in and make new original sounds that maybe people haven't heard before.
You know, I don't know if we've mentioned this on our segments yet here on Jersey Magazine, but I think back to the album that Metallica recorded with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. All classically trained musicians, they
Yep.
all sight read music. None of the guys in Metallica can read a note of music.
Yeah.
And so Metallica guys are blown away that these guys have and gals have charts in front of them and they're just playing along with whatever's there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these classically trained musicians are looking at the guys in Metallica going, how do they remember all of that? How do they
Yeah.
commit that to memory? And you
Yeah.
get the power of heavy metal and the power of a full symphony orchestra. And it's one of my favorite live albums of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to me like that kind of stuff, the combining up of different genres and different styles and different types of musicians. We actually just recorded something, and we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks, but with Emerson Wolf, and she has a multi-instrumentalist in her band, the Wishbones, and we were just talking about like how the brain can like work like that and just be able to like pick up something that, makes noise and just make it sound really awesome and, be able to kind of combine all these different elements and people and talents and all that just makes it's to me one of the most fascinating things about just like the creation of art is like it's just this visceral thing that comes from all different kinds of people and styles and whether you're classically trained, whether you're brand new to the scene, it's just so interesting to see kind of how those things get from A to B.
You know, we just passed the 61st anniversary of the Beatles appearing for the first time on the Ed Sullivan Show. And there were four guys who did not read music and were doing all of these different things. And granted, George Martin had a big, huge influence because he was professionally trained. But you think back on four guys who didn't have that musical background and maybe were able to say, well, what do you mean it can't work? Why can't we do this?
Yeah, yeah,
And then you take someone like Tory Anne Daines, classically trained, who can take the knowledge that she has and go, well, yeah, we can make this work with a rock
yeah.
and roll setting.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, don't like the box. I remember I read yeah, I'm not a big reader, but I read Dave Grohl's book last year and he talks about like, thinking outside the box, but his whole thing is screw the box basically. So just don't even worry about the box. Just do whatever you want and then just make that work for how like what your vision is for that. And I think that's really important. So when you do have people that, can take it and make it sound nice, but then also people that have like that brain where they can think beyond the scope of like what is, it doesn't have to fall in this similar pattern. We can do anything, like there's the sky's the limit really, and I think it's really interesting.
Grohl said that he plays guitar like a drummer. And
Yep.
I've never heard anyone, I know a lot of people who play both instruments, I've never heard anyone describe it in that way. What he learned playing drums, he takes to the guitar.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's just like it to me it's like the most fascinating thing about like I said before about music and art and anything. It's just like it can come from whatever you can learn how to do it whenever like however and I think that just impacts people's styles and their expression and everything and like let's just listening to the stuff from Fair Panic because I got a little sneak peek at the new release like the EP release before it came out and it's definitely a departure from the stuff that they already have kind of out right now but there's still some connection, but you could definitely see the vision for what they are looking to do with the band, now in 2025 and then moving forward.
It's Fair Panic, their new release. Tory Anne Daines, the front woman for the band. You can check it all out on this week's episode of Greetings from thegardenstate.com. Before I let you go, Mike,
Sure.
this past week, the Robo-Ump made its appearance in a Major League spring training game. If it works, the earliest we'd see it is probably the 2026 season. And the strike zone that you see on television broadcasts may ultimately have to go away. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the Robo-Ump?
Man, I go back and forth on it a lot because like you look at, back in the day and you watch like vintage videos of like a Maddox or a Glavine or guys that were able to like use how they pitched to their advantage and be able to like expand the zone and different things like that. But also with hitters being able to shrink a zone and that kind of cat and mouse game that people play, I do think is a big part of the game. And then you're also kind of taking away the catcher as well because it's like how you make pitches look and stuff like that. So I do think that it is a really integral part of the game, but I also look at all these like you would watch another video of was it Levon Hernandez in the '97 World Series and he's throwing pitches like 4 feet outside and the guy's ringing people up because he just got into the energy of the game. Stuff like that I think is it's an anomaly for sure because obviously these umpires are the best in the world at what they do, but there's still a lot of room for error. And I do think that having some semblance of kind of consistency back there is helpful because everyone has a different idea of the zone. Everyone has a different idea of, Aaron Judge gets pitches called on him low all the time because he's 6'7", and Altuve maybe pitches high because he's 5'8", whatever it is. So I think that the rule changes that have kind of come through the last few years, like the pitch clock and all that kind of stuff, I was a little bit hesitant to embrace it, but then as I saw it kind of improve the game, I just think that this is going to be another one of those things that does help improve the game, and I think it's going to take some getting used to for sure once it does get implemented because it's coming no matter what, whenever that is. But once it kind of gets integrated into it, I think everyone's going to be okay. What do you think about it?
We have the technology. I think we should use it.
Yeah.
Although I am a little, like you just said, I'm a little reluctant to take the human element out of the game because the human element is the basis of the game.
Yeah. Right. And you look at like was it Salvador Perez who wears like ladies perfume behind home plate because he wants to have a nice relationship with the umpire and get more strikes for his pitcher. Like stories like that kind of cease to exist and that it's just, again funny anecdotal type thing, but it's just to me that's what makes baseball a special game is like that kind of intimate relationship that you have with the officials of your game. Like football doesn't really have that. Soccer barely has that because you have like one guy running around with 12 or 22 other people. So I think that, that catcher umpire relationship, the, pitcher umpire relationship, the pitcher catcher relationship, the batter umpire relationship, like all those things start to kind of take a back seat to just like balls, strikes, and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So, like I said, like you said, you have the technology, you might as well use it. As long as it works well and it doesn't kind of impact the game in the wrong way, just make the game better, make it more watchable, make it more engaging, make it, more accessible for people to, be engaged with everything that's going on with it, and grow the game. That's really what it comes down to.
Bear Panic, Tory Anne Daines coming up this week on Greetings from thegardenstate.com, and Robo Umps may be coming to Major League Baseball by 2026. Thanks, Mike Ham.
Thanks, Jim.